as much as the lows are hard to take, sometimes the highs are hard to take as well, because they can be so high. You don't know sometimes how to control it, So he is only 21, but I think he's the best fullback possibly there's ever been. I would compare it to some levels in England, I would say it's similar to like League One, League Two England. This was about, well, before lockdown happened and we were at a party and someone brought out the Jaeger bombs and I couldn't quite handle them. So no, I'm not great at Jaeger bombs, put it that way. India would beat Scotland, and I still believe that India could beat Scotland.
What's up people, and welcome back to another Wednesday Wisdom video. This is the second part of a Tiki-Taka episode that I did with Joshua Walker. Now if you haven't seen the first part, then make sure you click the I button and go give that a watch. I will link this video at the end screen of that one so you can jump right back. In this part of the episode, Joshua gives us his opinions on various things plus a few hot takes, along with talking about the 3 most important things for any footballer and his advice to them at the end. So make sure you watch until the end of this video. If you're new around here, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You'd be an absolute legend. To all of you who have already subscribed, I want to say a big thank you. Through your support, I've managed to actually pass 200 subscribers. Next target 300. Let's see how quick we can reach that. But if you like the video, then make sure you leave a like and let me know in the comment section below what you think about the different things that we talk about in this video.
And we move on to the next section that I call recovering possession. So as you can tell, now we are coming back to real time. Having played at all the different levels in England, can you tell us a little bit more about the competition and the level of football and just how difficult it is to make a career even at the lower levels?
Well, I think to become a professional in any sport is difficult, because the sacrifices you have to make, not only to get there, but to then maintain them. I think to get there is easier than staying there. I think to become and maintain the levels to stay a professional footballer is really, really difficult. And the lower down you go, you've even got to have even more determination and desire, because see, when you're playing higher up, you're obviously getting a lot more money, where you could think to yourself, well, I'm not really playing, but I'm still getting paid thousands of pounds a week. Where if you're in a lower level football, you might be not getting a game and you might be coming up to the end of your contract. You're relying on your wages to pay your mortgage, to cover everything, to live your lifestyle. That's when I think it becomes difficult. So I think the lower down you go, I think it's a lot harder than being higher up.
That's very interesting, because we don't see that side of it, especially the lower leagues of England.
Yeah.
Alright, so having played in India, what do you think about the level of football in India?
I was really surprised by it. When I came across, I kind of thought, and this is going to sound so disrespectful, but I thought it was just going to be easy, because I'd never heard of football in India. So I just thought it's going to be like playing for your school, where you take everyone on and you score. But it wasn't. And it was one of the most enjoyable levels I've ever played at. It was physically demanding. You got tested with the ball. It was the crowds. I really, really enjoyed it. And I would compare it to some levels in England. People have asked me this when I'm getting back here. What would you say it's like? I would say it's similar to like League One, League Two England. It's way better than like Championship, League One, League Two in Scotland. It's way above them levels, But definitely like League One, League Two in England. Some of the players could play higher even than that. The majority, I would say, is roughly around them levels.
No, that's quite interesting. And that also leads me on well to my next question, because another follower of mine at _desai.10 asks, what according to you is the major differences practically between the higher divisions in England and India?
I think they're pretty similar. I think now with the coaches you have at all levels, they all have to do their badges the same as each other. I mean, Ashley, I just remember being one of the most professional managers I've ever worked for. And the way we would go in depth tactically about every team we played against. So whether that was a team in India or whether it was in the Asian Cup against the team in Maldives, he knew how they played. He knew what we were going to do. He knew how we were going to set up. So for me, there was no difference. It was exactly the same. If not, at Bangalore under Ashley, it was even higher, the level of tactics that we had, because you knew everything that you were doing.
All right, that's quite interesting. Okay, so as a coach, how difficult is it for you to get a job in England, and what do you do every day to improve as a coach?
To be honest, I've never tried to get a manager's job yet. I've never applied for one. But from what I hear from people in clubs, that any job that comes available, there's hundreds of applicants that go in for it. I think it's such a sought after job. I think everyone thinks they could be a good manager until they have a go at it. And obviously a lot more fail than those that succeed, you know. But I think it is a difficult job to get. However, for me personally, I've never tried to get one yet. I would like to give management a go. Hopefully I'll be lucky enough that someone will come and ask me, because I'd really like to do that one day.
And how do you improve as a coach? What do you do to improve on the skills that you already have?
I think me personally, what I do is, well, I watch things on YouTube. I'll go and watch other training sessions. I go and watch any football that's happening, you know, like there's always something going on. So I always try and keep an eye out on that, because as a player, you can always get better, and as a coach, you can certainly always get better, you know. And it's just something that I think with experience and you get better at.
It's quite a good philosophy to have as well. All right. So another follower, and I think again these are some of your mates having a go at you. At Sam Thompson 27 asks, "Are you any good at Jaeger Pong?"
So this was about, well, before lockdown happened, and we were at a party and someone brought out the Jaeger bombs and I couldn't quite handle them. So no, I'm not great at Jaeger bombs, put it that way.
All right. Okay. At Louis Milner asks, "Is it true that you run the Jack Cane on a Saturday?"
So what we've been doing on a Saturday morning, me and a load of my friends that play for teams in Scotland, and we've been playing football against each other every Saturday morning. And I'd like to say I've been the standout player at times in those games. So you're right there, Louis. Aye.
All right. And the last one, at Tommy_Craddock asks, "Are you more proud of your football achievements or your Arneklo ambassador role?"
I enjoy this stuff with Arnie Clothes, but no, definitely, because Tommy again is one of my friends, and he's always onto us to try and get him some discount with them, you know, but I never do. But no, definitely my football achievements.
All right. I wasn't sure if I should include them or not, but I thought, why not?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. With that, we move to the next section that I call Through Pass. And this is talking a little bit into the future. So on a personal level, what goals do you have for the coming years, for the coming season?
Well, the next 5 years, ideally, I'd like to have my coaching business really flying, where I have people working for me and it's sustaining itself, where I could then, say at 35, go into a manager's role, knowing that I can give my all to that manager's role without worrying about my business on the other side. So I can just go into it with full focus. Right, this is what I'm here to do, and that's kind of my aim. I'd ideally, by the time I'm 35, like to be in that position where a business that is booming, but so that means I can then step away from it. It's still running itself as it is, and then I can go and focus on giving management a crack, because, like I said, everyone thinks they'll be a good manager, and I'm no different. I think I'd like to think I'd do well, you know.
Maybe we'll even see a return to India at a manager's role.
That would be great, you know. I would love that one day.
Okay. Who is one young player in England that you are looking forward to seeing and that you think could really become great?
Well, I think you've got the likes of Phil Foden at Man City, who I think could become a superstar. Well, he's already on his way to being a superstar, really. You've got Mason Greenwood at Man United, who's just burst on the scene this season. Me being a Newcastle fan, I like the Longstaff brothers. I think they're good players. And again, I think had they been at a bigger club to say, I think they'd be talked about with England a lot more than what they are. But those 3-4 players are just ones that stick out in my head. I mean, one, he is only 21, but I think he's the best fullback possibly there's ever been. I'm going to put him that high. Trent Alexander-Arnold. But for me, I don't think of him as young anymore. And I just see him getting better and better and better. I think he will go on to be possibly England's most capped player, most assists from fullback, like assists from defence in the Premier League. I just think he could go on and just break all kinds of records for defenders. I think he's outstanding.
Yeah, it's a joy to watch as well.
Oh, brilliant. Outstanding player.
All right, so now coming to India again. What do you think about the future of Indian football, and what aspects do you think as a country we need to improve to really get the best out of our players?
I think It's just the way it starts with the grassroots football. So in England, obviously, you've got kids are playing football from 4 or 5-year-old with like organised teams and organised setups. I think that needs to be the same in India. And I think it needs someone kind of overseeing it, pretty much in charge of everything. Because, like I say, when I went to India, there was so many good players, but there was also, if that weren't so good, I think if you could get, because the population the country's got, India could be, I shouldn't say could be, it should be one of the best football teams in the world, you know. So I think if they can just have a group of people overseeing the way football is developed from youth levels. When I say youth levels, I'm talking like from 4 or 5-year-old, how it is in the UK, well, in England especially. If they can get it to those levels, I know it comes down to money and things like this, but if they can get that, and they did that for about 20 years. I said this when I came back from India, and everyone asked me about the levels of it, you know, and I said that India would beat Scotland, and I still believe that India could beat Scotland. Like, and people laughed at me, but like they could. And I just personally believe that if India could do this from youth levels, I think the country would prosper, you know, and not just in terms of football development, but then more eyes would be on the country, more eyes would be watching the football, it would just develop and it would just grow and grow and grow. And I think that's what it needs to do to not just get bigger, but to develop.
Wow, that's quite an interesting take on the whole thing, especially with the bold comment of India beating Scotland.
Oh, honestly, I do. I think you could definitely beat Scotland. And that's not saying much either.
All right. What do you think Indian players need to do to reach the levels of maybe the Premier League or other top divisions?
Well, again, I think there is players out there who could be good enough to get a chance to go and train and play. But I think for that to happen is purely going to come down to the way football is run and developed in India. I'm not saying they're developing it wrong. I'm just saying if they were to develop it in the way I've said it, I think the country would grow. The levels of football would get higher and higher and higher every year. And I think if that's to happen, more people come to watch games, scouts come across. If they were to do that, there's already good enough players in India to play in England at certain levels, you know. I think it is just about that development stage. I think if you can get that done, I think that would improve everything in terms of players moving from India to England.
All right. Hopefully that happens sooner rather than later.
Definitely.
Anyway, so with that, we move into the last section that I call extra time. So, what advice do you have for someone who's struggling mentally with regards to football? Given your experiences, what would you suggest to them?
What I would suggest to them is keep your belief in yourself that you had when you started. You know, everyone starts at playing football to become a professional. Everyone wants to play for the team they support. Everyone wants to play for the country they're from. Just because someone says you're not good enough doesn't mean someone else thinks the same. But if you start believing what they're telling you, your performances are then going to drop. They're going to become right. Then other people's opinions are then going to be matched by what you do. You know, so if you can just keep your focus, keep your belief in yourself, no matter if you don't get anywhere, if you keep that belief in yourself that you've got, at least you know what, I gave it my best shot. I didn't let anything affect me. I gave my maximum. Where if you look back and you think, why did I let that manager, why did I let that fan, why did I let that player knock my confidence? Because I don't know how good I could have been. Not me personally, that's just what I'm saying in general, you know. So I think if that would be my advice to any young boy or girl playing football.
All right. And what, according to you, are the 3 most important aspects of a footballer's game that they need to work on?
Technical. So you need to be out every single day from a young age, working both feet. Technically, if you work both feet, then you've got a real chance. Physically, that's not me saying go out and start doing weights at 10-year-olds. No, like I'm talking when your body's ready. But like you could just think like in terms of stretching, yoga, like you can do that from a very young age. But also working on your mental side of the game, preparing yourself for what's to come, the highs, the lows, because as much as the lows are hard to take, sometimes the highs are hard to take as well, because they can be so high you don't know sometimes how to control it, you know. So that would be what I would say: technically, physically, certainly mentally.
That's very good advice. And finally, the last question: what overall advice would you give to a young footballer?
My advice to a young footballer would be, like all the stuff I was talking before about keeping your belief, but also being patient, because patience is what is going to get you to become a footballer. I mean, I remember just looking back on my career, like I say, I used to get to 17, 18, and I'd be devastated if I was on the bench and lose my focus sometimes. I'd worked my whole life to become a professional footballer, and because of some decisions that I sometimes made, or I listened to advice of other people, I didn't quite get to where I should have been. And I think, why was I in such a rush to get there? Do you know, like, it'll come. I mean, you see players now playing the Premier League. Jack Grealish never played in the Premier League until he's 22, 23. It doesn't matter if you might not even be at a professional club at 17. It might take until you're like a Jamie Vardy, 24. Look at him. Look how patient he was. He's 33 and he's just won the Golden Boot again. Patience is the one thing, the self-belief and patience. Keep that, as well as having the ability, and you've got to have all the corners, the ability, the technical, the tactical, the physical. But if you can keep the belief and you can keep your focus and be patient, because it's going to be so up and down. Like, you'll have no idea what you're getting yourself into. It's going to be so up and down. One week you're the best, the next week someone thinks you're the worst. It's just up and down. You've just got to keep that self-belief, that self-focus, that drive, that determination, like Ronaldo does. Do you know what I mean? If it's good enough for Ronaldo, why is it not good enough for everyone else? That would be my advice.
All right. Thank you for that advice. That was really good advice. And that brings us to full time. That's the end of the interview. Thank you so much for being a part of this series.
No problem. Thanks for having us.
You're most welcome. I certainly learned a lot, and I hope everyone watching this also gets a lot to take from it.
I hope so. Thanks again for having me on.
That's the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something. If you watched until the end, then make sure you leave a comment with the hashtag absolute legend. Also, if you like Joshua's story, then make sure you reach out to him on his socials and let him know. The links will be in the description. You can also check out other episodes that I did with other professionals by clicking on the screen now.